Back in 2014, when I'd gone through the second menopause kind of nosedive, and that is where I discovered the keto green, keto alkaline method that I teach and that I write about. When I make my clients check urine pH, because urine pH is a biomarker of health and it has to be 7 or higher on an average basis. And it is a critical marker of good health. If it's low, if it's acidic, you're going to have bladder issues, worse incontinence, cystitis type feelings or urgency. You're going to have metabolic syndrome, potentially diabetes, heart disease, osteoporosis, cancers, all associated with chronically acidic urine pH. So we can do that naturally through nutrition. But what I found was, as I was really focusing on the nutrition aspect, the mornings that I went out and walked on the beach, or the mornings I did my prayer and meditation and gratitude journaling, my urine pH was more alkaline all day.
Hello, darlings, and welcome to Not Over, Just Different. I'm Natalie Ledwell, and I'm here to share deeply insightful and vulnerable conversations with you from people who are willing to open up and share what their journey's been like, so that you can learn and be inspired to take action in yours. It's never too late to begin again or to see a new perspective. No matter what your dreams or goals are, you'll find inspiration and community here. It's time to rediscover yourself, reignite your passions, and make the next 50 years even more full than the first. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the podcast for this week. This week, I have my girlfriend on. I haven't had her on for quite some time. Dr. Anna Cabeca. Hello, darling. How are you?
I am so happy to spend this time with you. Thanks for having me.
Me too. So you are known as the girlfriend's doctor because anything to do with menopause, you are relieving a whole generation of women right now through your products, through your practice, through your information. What's the motto that you have? You know, we all have to go through menopause, but we don't have to suffer.
Exactly. Menopause is natural and mandatory. Suffering is optional. And really, it's a privilege to live to the age that we go through menopause. So we have to reframe it.
Yeah. And it's kind of like a rite of passage, right? Although there's sometimes I feel like really, as women, we went through all that with the puberty and the childbirth and all of that. And now we get to this stage and now we've got more stuff that we're going through. But like you said, we do not have to suffer through it, and thank goodness for you. So why don't we start a little bit with, I know that you've worked with thousands of women. What are some of the common things, the challenges that you see that we go through as women at this time of our life that hopefully we can avoid?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and these sneaky challenges too, they creep up on us. And sometimes we don't realize honestly how bad we're feeling till we start feeling good again. And things like fatigue, things like aches and pain, stiffness, hair loss, weight gain without doing anything different. That's a big one. That's often the straw that breaks the camel's back. You have the hot flashes, but now that's been so accepted that hot flashes are like a common symptom. But people don't realize, there's something I can do about it. Yes, we can shift our physiology and not experience hot flashes. The same with all of these other symptoms. So the loss of libido, the difficulty sleeping through the night, or feeling like you can sleep 10 hours and still never feel rested. Those are common. Heart palpitations, frozen shoulder, the list is terrible. Vaginal dryness, decrease in orgasm, incontinence issues. This menopause, like you said, it's like, what? We deal with this? Look, we don't have to deal with this. Suffering is optional. Let's get to the root of it, right?
If I think back to maybe a year or even a year and a half ago, I had all of those symptoms. Like for me to get out in the bed in the morning was just like, I had to go through this whole routine of getting out. And I'm like, is it my mattress? I don't know. I had blown out to over 200 pounds this time last year. So I had all of the symptoms and the hot flashes and all that kind of thing. And then, I obviously went to see a doctor and went, right, get me on the hormones, do whatever we have to do. But we don't necessarily have to just do that because hormones in themselves aren't necessarily the complete answer, right?
That's absolutely right. It takes more than hormones to fix our hormone. And I learned that from my own journey. So I originally went through, I was diagnosed with early menopause and infertility back in 2006, and then reversed that, had the child I was told I would never be able to have in 2008. So at age 41, and then at 48, around 2014, I was experiencing all those symptoms I just mentioned. I know those symptoms intimately and been well over 240 pounds lost 80 pounds and then kept that weight off, to have it start coming up again and again, I was like, I'll be 300 pounds by the time this stops. So that led me into and my hormone at that point, age 48, my hormones were dialed in. And it takes more than hormones. I had to change nutrition and lifestyle and really figure out what was happening at the cellular level, at the mitochondrial level, what were beyond our reproductive hormones, what were hormones that were the puppeteers of our reproductive hormones, and start addressing those through nutrition and lifestyle changes and supplementation. That changed my life. Changed my symptoms. And within 6 weeks, I'd lost all but 2 pounds that I had gained. And then all my symptoms got rid of it. And I was still a mom of young kids and 2 teenage daughters at the time. We went in elementary school, a middle schooler and a high schooler, all girls, y'all. And they had been taking advantage of my brain fog and my difficulty multitasking, all that good stuff, and forgetfulness. So when I got my shit back together, again, very quickly, I had so much peace. And then they were healthier and happier too. So it's been quite a journey. And it is like the complementary things that we do in addition to, appropriately using bioidentical hormones that are game changing.
Yeah. So can you describe a little bit about what it is that's actually happening in our bodies as we go through menopause? Why do we have all these ailments?
Yeah. Well, our reproductive hormones predominantly start to decrease. So from age 35 to 55. Now, they should tell us this at age 35. And actually, I did this research in writing my first book, which I published in 2018. From age 35 to 55, we lose 75% of our progesterone level. And progesterone, we make progesterone and pregnenolone from cholesterol. So these are our mother hormones. And then we make down one pathway cortisol and down another pathway DHEA and testosterone and estrogen. So if our progesterone's like plummeting, then you have less of the substrate to make the rest of our hormones. And 75% decrease in 20 years. And that's huge compared to estrogen in that same time frame. We have 35% less estrogen. So that progesterone is that driver for so many of these symptoms, sometimes called estrogen dominant symptoms, sometimes more appropriately called progesterone insufficiency symptoms. So it's often one of the first hormones I'll replace after I detox and address other hormones. But so we're losing those hormones. DHEA for both men and women starts to decline in our mid to late 20s, and then progesterone starts to decline in our mid to late 30s. Then testosterone gradually over time, and estrogen, as about 35% loss between age 35 to 55. And that affects our brain's neurochemistry because our brain's ability to use glucose for fuel is hormone dependent. So, if your hormones like that huge shift, that huge percentage decline in these very neuroprotective hormones, and your brain's starving for fuel. So that's where I discovered shifting to periodically, at least, using ketones for fuel, shifting to fat burning metabolism and using ketones for fuel bypasses that hormone dependency. And it's like jet fuel to the brain where, glucose is like gasoline. So give me that jet fuel. I needed that jet fuel. So at the same time this is happening, as these changes in our reproductive hormones, we become more insulin resistant. So as we age, reproductive hormones decline, but insulin and cortisol increase. And so we have to fight those hormones. So insulin resistance, leptin resistance, increasing levels of ghrelin, adiponectin. We have to watch these other biomarkers, these other regulator hormones, because they start to have a bigger role in beyond menopause.
Yeah. And so because we have this natural decline, we start to get all these different symptoms. So let's just say someone's listening to the podcast right now. What actions should they take? Like, what are their first steps?
Oh, well, the first thing is what gets measured gets managed. So really get your hormones tested. Not just hormones, your hemoglobin A1C, your vitamin D25 hydroxy, your HSCRP. I list all these in my book, The Hormone Fix. So there's like key hormones and lab tests and full cardiac markers, because what's going to kill us? Heart disease. That's our number one risk factor for death post-menopause is heart disease. So let's look at those inflammatory markers, and then let's look at our hormones in a couple ways. When we can do this over time, doesn't all have to be done the same day. But if you look at your blood hormone levels, you also want to look at the pituitary hormone. So we think of our reproductive hormones, we're going to look at, DHEA, sulfate, if we're looking in the blood, and testosterone, estrogen, vitamin D. None of our hormones will work well in vitamin D deficient environments. So we want to make sure that's optimal. And progesterone and pregnenolone. So we look at those, but we also want to look at the pituitary hormones, FSH and LH, and see, because for years as a gynecologist, we're like, okay, your level of FSH is consistently above 40 or 50, you're definitely menopausal. But, sometimes I would see clients with really high FSH levels, and I started digging into the research. High levels of FSH are associated with osteoporosis and more weight gain, more conversion of metabolically active brown fat to white fat. So here, there are certain nutritional supplements that can help drop FSH that we use in integrative medicine for hormonal management. But hormones like progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, get that FSH optimal to decrease our risk of osteoporosis and, of course, less metabolically healthy fat. If I'm going to have fat, I want it to be the metabolically healthy kind.
Right. Now, I read about brown fat as well, how important that is, because I cold plunge every morning. So,
every morning?
Yeah.
Only do it at conferences or when JJ's around. That's it.
No, I have one on my balcony, and it's 45 degrees. Every morning I get out of my beautiful warm bed, cuddling with my dog, and I get straight into that thing for 5 minutes. So I'm like,
5 minutes at 45 degrees.
Yeah. Sets me up for the day. It's amazing.
That's amazing. And that's increasing metabolically active brown fat. Absolutely.
So, because, I know with my particular journey, like I went from, like aches and pains, no motivation to exercise, very little libido, feeling like an overweight and the whole thing, and then getting into a protocol that has, honestly, I'm feeling the best I've felt for a really long time. So what are some of the women or some cases you can tell us about the transformation that can happen when you start to understand what deficiencies you have, and then, you're taking specific action towards being able to add these supplements and these hormones to your routine?
Yeah. I'd love to share it with you. And just thinking too, as you're going through this journey and you powered through, right? You're working until, you really don't often realize how bad you were feeling till you start feeling really good again.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, how did I let this go on so long? And we think about that like no judgment. It's just we were making changes and we can make a difference. And oftentimes for many people, and I see clients from all over the world here in Dallas that come to see me, and they'll be like, I've just been afraid. I've been afraid of hormones. I've been afraid. I didn't know what to do. And part of my journey was when I'd been diagnosed with early menopause and infertility back in 2006 was I traveled around the world, and that's where I learned more world medicine. So from traditional healers and Andean philosophers and just like medicine men, so to speak. And the thing that's common, whether we're in Egypt or China or India, is you got to detox the liver and the kidneys. You got to detox the liver and the kidneys. And that's integral to functional medicine that we study here in the US too. But it was never part of any of my medical education at Emory University or through my medical school. And I'm trained as an osteopath because we're very, holistic. But still, that wasn't part of the discussion. So learning that, on my journey, how important it is to detox the liver, whether you're on hormones or not, is critical. Detox the kidney and detox the gallbladder. And we often know, like, why do you mean detox the gallbladder? I've had my gallbladder removed. Well, there's certain enzymes that we're going to want to put you on in that situation. So like paying attention to these, our body's process, and of course, elimination, that you're having at least 1 to 2 bowel movements every single day. And I can't tell you how problematic it is. Well, how game changing it is just for that one thing. You change that one aspect in someone's life. They go from, maybe 1 to 2 times a week to 1 to 2 times a day. Like that is game changing. That is the key way we detox. And also our gut and our gut microbiome and our vaginal microbiome needs to be healthy for our entire life, or when it's in dysbiosis, we're set up for more disease. So I'll share with you a patient that I saw recently. I first saw her when I got into practice here in Dallas last year, and she's 62 years old, and she had significant environmental illness, mold toxicity, postmenopausal, really struggling, hadn't had sex with her husband in over 2 years. And she's like, Dr. Anna, I don't want a pap smear. She said, it hurts so much. I'm so dry. And I said, well, I won't treat you. I need to do a full physical exam because cervical cancer is on the rise in women post-menopause. And regardless, your body's always saying something. It's it indicator for symptoms. So I said, I got to do a pap smear. And she was like, do you have the smallest speculum, et cetera? I said, well, don't worry. And she was so stenotic and so, so dry and stenotic. And really, it was like an 80-year-old vagina at that time. And this really was struggling. She had mold toxicity. So over the year, working with her with hormones, vaginal vulvar, I had her on topically with Jolva. I had her on optimizing other bioidentical hormones as well. And of course, detoxing. So you have to do heavy detox with mold. Phosphatidylcholine, a critical supplement to help with detox and also for cellular function and cell membrane support. So all of that plus probiotics. And I saw her, seeing one of my other colleagues for continuation in between of the mold detox and IVs. But then I saw her just this last week for her follow-up pap smear. And literally she had a 40-year-old vagina. And she's like, Dr. Ann, I've been having sex. We had to move out of our house to a hotel. So we treated it like another honeymoon while they're remediating their house. And she says, that's it. I just felt better. I thought that was the end for us. And I feel so much better. It goes beyond the vaginal health, but that key that you can turn back the hands of time, that's significantly, and it makes a difference. No more incontinence, no more dryness, no more infections. And that's a powerful shift.
Is it time for a career change? Find out with our free 30-second quiz. This simple yet potent tool will help you determine if a new career path is right for you. Don't miss out the chance to turn your life around. Go to mindmovies.com/career quiz.
Well, the infections are really it's important that you look after that because you could get sepsis, like you get toxic. So that could kill you. You really need to stay on top of all of that. Yeah. And because, I use a few of your products actually. Jolva I've been using for years, and I just make that part of my, daily routine. I have my face cream, I have my body cream, I have my hoo-hoo cream, and it makes a massive difference, an incredible difference. But the other thing I really like is your hair mask, because tell us what happens. Why does our hair start to fall out? Why does it get all thin and brickly and everything? Well, what happens?
Yeah, it's so unfair. And I had, and part of my journey too is, I remember pulling back my hair one time and I had hair loss, literally, Natalie, I don't know if you've seen those pictures. Sometimes I share them, literally to the crown of my head. I had this huge bilaterally male pattern baldness, significant amount. And when you put my hair in a ponytail, it was tiny. Now it's thick and healthy. And I pay attention when I start to lose hair. Sometimes it's thyroid disease. Sometimes it's a biotin insufficiency, magnesium, B vitamin insufficiency. Sometimes it's toxicity, and sometimes it's stress. Stress causing cortisol to increase the conversion of testosterone to dihydrotestosterone. That causes the male pattern baldness. And that was significant for me. I was high stress, high cortisol, and converting testosterone to dihydrotestosterone, getting lost handfuls of hair. Another, that toxicity piece is also really important. And we talked about mold toxicity in this other patient is that, fungal infections in the scalp or systemically can also cause diffuse hair loss, So this client too that I'd been working with over the last year too, that one of the things she's very proud of is that her hair is all grown back and she really loves how she looks and feels now. And that's priceless, right? It didn't cost that much to do all this. So,
for me, my hairstyle, I started to really see, it was receding and it's I can't hide it. It's whoa, what's going on here? So between your hair mask and then I started taking collagen, putting that in my shakes in the morning, I was like, okay, it's completely growing back. That feels thick and beautiful and I love it.
Oh, your hair is gorgeous. Your hair is gorgeous. And it's always so thick. When you're having that receding in the temples or at the top of the head, zinc, 60 milligrams a day. Add zinc to your routine too. So zinc, vitamin A, D, E, and K, because that also blocks that cortisol pathway that's converting testosterone to dihydrotestosterone. So that's good. I love that hair mask. It's a funny story, really, how I created it. But it was sea buckthorn oil. Sea buckthorn oil is something way back to Alexander the Great. He noticed his horses in Africa, they'd been eating this weed on the side of the road, and all of a sudden they went from scrawny and losing all their hair to thick, beautiful coats of hair. So that's how sea buckthorn was discovered to help hair. And then it's been in beauty regimens since the time of Cleopatra. So
yeah, no, it's fantastic. The products of yours that I've used feel and see a difference. Like, you've put a lot of work into it, and I know that they're just so effective. Now, we were also talking before we started the podcast about oxytocin. So how important that is. Now, from what all I know about it is the hug hormone. So, if you hug someone for more than 20 seconds, then oxytocin is released and you feel really good. Or if you're hanging around with your girlfriends and you're great conversation, then now oxytocin levels gets high. So how does it play into, where we're at this time of our life?
It is the master hormone. So I think my next book, I'm going to call it something like that. But it really is the master hormone, the mother hormone. It is a hormone that makes life worth living, because oxytocin, first of all, that feeling of love, being loved, feeling of trust, of safety, of generosity, all of the gratitude, all is oxytocin. And like you said, hanging out with your girlfriends, I was saying, watching the movie My Big Fat Greek Wedding, that is oxytocin. Orgasm, kissing, positive touch, play. Head massages, love to go to that salon that gives me a good head massage when I go, right? That increases oxytocin. And swinging on a swing increases oxytocin. So things like that. What research has shown, and why I love it so much, certainly as an obstetrician, we knew about oxytocin to help induce labor, to speed it up. Many people may have received the injection called Pitocin. That is oxytocin. That is an injection of oxytocin, and it creates this contractions. And so as a result of that, as a result of natural oxytocin, when our child is born, and this one, like with my first child, 3 days of labor, tremendous amount of pain. I mean, it was just like, an obstetrician's nightmare delivery. And then you see this baby and you're like, oh my God, like she's just absolutely perfect. Like, you forget all the pain. It's a natural analgesic too, but it connects you, it bonds you. It is a bonding hormone. So it's powerful, and you need to be aware of that in so many relationships too, that oxytocin can bind us. And that's also to rejuvenate relationships, having that positive fun. Those oxytocin moments, I like to say oxyplay, can help us stay and feel connected. There are many ways that we can increase oxytocin, but additionally, research has shown that with that early attachment and high levels of oxytocin and breastfeeding, that decreases addictive behavior, decreases truancy, et cetera, and in general. So that early bonding is critical, and that's the power of oxytocin too. And it's been shown to flip the age spectrum in our elderly and clients over 70 and 80, that adding oxytocin increasing activities and or exogenous oxytocin increased muscle regeneration and is rejuvenating. So back in 2014, when I'd gone through the second menopause kind of nosedive, and that is where I discovered the keto green, keto alkaline method that I teach and that I write about. When I make my clients check urine pH, because urine pH is a biomarker of health, and it has to be 7 or higher on an average basis. And it is, that's a critical marker of good health. If it's low, if it's acidic, you're going to have bladder issues, worse incontinence, cystitis type feelings or urgency. You're going to have metabolic syndrome, potentially diabetes, heart disease, osteoporosis, cancers, all associated with chronically acidic urine pH. So we can do that naturally through nutrition. But what I found was, as I was really focusing on the nutrition aspect, the mornings that I went out and walked on the beach, or the mornings I did my prayer and meditation and gratitude journaling, my urine pH was more alkaline all day. So I went to the research. Cortisol increases urine acidity and oxytocin increases alkalinity. And so it's very restored and regenerative. And that's why one of the reasons it is the most powerful hormone in our body, and it's the most healing hormone.
Yeah, I mean, that's the same. Like my morning routine, I get up, straight into the cold plunge, get out. So I'm like, whoo, okay. Then I get dressed and then I go for a walk out around the marina. And I'm listening to something positive. And it's just that, the way you start your day is everything. All right. So
do you watch your mind movie? That's what I want to know. Like maybe.
Well, sometimes I do it in the cold plunge. And it depends. Like if I'm going to go out on a date or something, I'll watch my my movie before that. But or if I'm seeing now before I start to work, so. But it's good when I watch it in the cold plunge because it takes my mind off the cold.
Nice. Good idea.
It could be cheating. I don't know, but
no, I don't think so. I think that is multitasking. That is layering good good activities. Yeah, no, that's good.
All right. So if someone's listening to podcasts, they go, right, I really want to take action on this. What kind of doctor do they need to be looking for? Who's going to be the best help for them?
Yeah. So my personal opinion, and I've worked in this space now 30 years, and there's a lot of people that are doing menopause medicine and hormones and things like that. What I tell my clients that's, join me virtually through any of my programs is call your local compounding pharmacist and ask them, call a couple, compounding pharmacies in your area and ask them who's doing hormones right, who's not doing too high, not doing too low, whose patients are looking really healthy and, not jacked, who's looking healthy, and ask them because they will know. Because they see the clients coming in for their prescriptions, et cetera. So they know, who's doing it right and who's doing it wrong. And I think that's a really important aspect. And there are sometimes a physician who is customizing your hormones will always be using a compounding pharmacy for something. So, yes, we can do bioidentical estrogen patches and we can do progesterone prescriptions bioidentical through regular pharmacies. But when you get to testosterone, when you get to, compounding, fine tuning your hormones, that's who you want. You want someone who's really comfortable with that. And so that's kind of where I would say to start or looking for a physician that way.
Yeah, it's really good advice. Now, your website is DrAnna.com.
Yep.
So I encourage you to go and pay that website a little bit of a visit. You've got some great supplements there. You've got some great, creams and other products that are going to really help to go navigate through this time of our life. But you also do courses and things as well, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And they'll find everything at that website?
Everything. And we have a free 10-day breeze through menopause masterclass. So you can definitely jump into that. It gives you like a 5-minute video each day with little pearls, and it kind of goes through some foundations and understanding what's happening to your body, just the solutions. Like, okay, we're going to fix this now. By the end of 10 days, you're feeling better than you were at the beginning of the 10 days. So I definitely like to say start there.
Beautiful. All right, darling. Well, thank you so much for our chat today and for taking the time. It's always enlightening when I'm talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you. I love talking to you too. I got to get disciplined with my mind movies. That's for sure.
All right. Thanks so much, darling.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Not Over, Just Different. If you felt inspired by this episode, please subscribe and drop a comment below to let us know what you loved. My goal is to reignite the spark that you may think you've lost and cultivate a space where no matter what walk of life you are, you can step into the world with power and confidence. I would love to hear your reviews. It helps us to reach more incredible women like you. So until next time, keep growing, keep striving, and keep believing in the power of your potential. Here's to living your best life now.